Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Citizen Central podcast. Not one you see very often. It's been a little while since we did one of these, but there's a lot going on in the world of Star Citizen, so I thought I'd get together some of the great guests of the launch sequence, folks that I have been talking occasionally about this game too over the last year, and wanted to bring them all together, talk about what we've learned from CitizenCon, but more importantly, how we're feeling about the direction of the game, what CIG is doing to make it better. Is the format of Star Citizen changing before our eyes, albeit slowly, but still in a significant way that's affecting people? So, brought on a great crew here. As you can see, we've got Morph, Wookie, the Astro Historian, DTOX, and a little appearance by Chris. It's not a live show. We don't have chat today, guys, but Chris is there to watch over the conversation. But before we get started, I want to kick it off to the guests so you guys can give a little intro of yourself and say hi to everybody. We're going to go in reverse order this time, so we're starting clockwise, but from that corner over there. Sorry, the camera is making it weird. DTOX. Can you start us off, man? Yeah, thank you.
What do you want to know? Yeah, I mean, I'm DTOX. I've been back in this game since 2014. I've been streaming and making content, I guess, for like 9+ years now. Yeah, I do my content is mostly focused on sort of gameplay oriented content, open world content, or just gameplay oriented altogether. Basically anything that CIG puts out, like the Onyx missions recently, or things I get up to with my org out in the verse, that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's me. I don't really like talking about myself, but
well, you'd put out my favorite kind of content, so you don't even have to talk about it. I will pump up DTOX's content all day. If you don't watch gameplay videos, or if you're looking for some good ones, check them out because they're some of the best in Star Citizen, I think.
Thanks, man.
I agree.
Thank you,
Mr. Historian. Tell us.
Well, you can call me Paul, Berserker 01, Batman Shelley. I go by many names, but most people know me as the Astro Historian, where I do lore content. I do look at not just lore of Star Citizen, I do other games as well, but Star Citizen is the main focus, where my current thing is going down the complete history of Star Citizen lore, where I'm starting from the very beginning of the lore narrative all the way up to today to show you just what 5 writers in 13 years can do. I've been doing this for several years now, but I also do gameplay content and kind of discussion content on my Twitch, my other YouTubes, which is twitch.tv/TheAstroPub and youtube.com/TheAstroPub Live. And you can also catch me with a similar podcast called The Captain's Table on youtube.com/TheCaptain's And I'm going to gas up DTOX a little bit more because DTOX is also one of the few people who's been featured a lot in the Astro Historian stuff. He's in fact got an entire section just dedicated to him in the Jumptown Wars documentary, because he was one of the folks that I was like, oh, I need to get footage, and I would reach out to DTOX. DTOX is like, here, all of this.
That was a good time. That was a good time. Thank you. Thanks, man.
Yeah, the that series that covers the history of the game. Oh, dude. I look at the way that those videos release and I see them maybe a few weeks out from release and I'm like, this deserves more views. What are you guys doing? But I get so much joy from coming back because I have a problem and I watch those videos regularly and I come back every couple of months and it like continuously ticks up because people are always going to be looking into that stuff and it's always going to be interesting. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you for watching it. It means a lot.
You got to do one on Dupree at some point.
Yeah.
What's that? Oh, yeah, I do have to do Dupree. That'd be a fun one. I love Dupree.
Oh, boy. I don't know anything about Dupree, so that'll be interesting to hear about. I don't even know what it is. Morph, my dude. Can you tell the folks who you are, where you came from?
Yeah, I'm a morphologist. I'm on YouTube. I do also a lot of Star Citizen content. I've also been around for a while, not as long as some of the other guys here. I think I started backing in 2016. Still a while, though. And like I'm known for my Architect Review series generally. And I'm on Twitch too sometimes.
Yep. I still get like I think the first one I ever watched from you was the Hammerhead, possibly Architect.
That was a while
video.
ago.
Yeah.
That was a while
Oh
ago.
wow.
I still get a lot of those popping up, but every single time a ship comes out and then I see an architect reviews, I'm like, yes, it's not every ship. But when it is,
So
it's a good day.
so
Yep,
so when are
and
we going to get an architect reviews? Did you already do the architect reviews? The Shiv.
Oh man, I cannot wait. I mean, that's gonna be actually. I've got a sub series of the videos I do called an Architect Rants, and that's gonna be on that one. It's all gonna be tongue in cheek. Obviously, it's a crappy
Yeah.
ship. That's kind of the fun of it, right? To like really be hard on it. Like the tagline for that one is the ship for the type of person who doesn't value their own life. You know, like I love it.
Yeah.
Are you ever going to do any videos like looking at the interior of the Onyx facilities?
Yeah, I want to. That's definitely on the list. But I mean, we've got so many ships. I'm so far behind in the
Yeah.
backlog of ships. Like I still haven't reviewed the Starlancer, which is awesome, and I think it's got a lot to talk about. And now the Paladin just came out, and I really like it. I love the interior of it, and I think the exterior looks great too. So
Ooh, you're
I don't
gonna
know,
have
there's
to
so
get
much
on
to
it,
talk
dude.
about.
You're gonna have
Yeah, I do.
Levski to talk
Yeah.
about soon too.
Levski.
Oh boy. Yeah.
And
Can't wait.
Perseus is
Can't
gonna.
The
It's gonna be
Perseus.
busy couple
Oh,
months. Yeah,
it's gonna be busy.
good times. Mr. Wookie, can you introduce yourself to the folks?
Yeah, man, I feel like I walked into the wrong room with all you heavy hitters in here.
The Carger Master, dude. What are you talking about?
Mr. Scooter himself, Scooter himself. What are you talking about?
You know, well, in the end, we're all just Kool-Aid drinking cultists anyway, right? So
Yeah,
you're in
that's
good
how this
company.
So I'm Wicked Wookie. You may be more familiar with my alter ego, Scooter Lee Scooter. It lives on the beautiful Brio's Breaker Yard on Damer.
There it is.
My ship salesman who sells everything at 50% off. You know, Scooter likes to acquire ships, maybe legally, not legally. You know, sell them half off, secondhand, and yeah. So mostly I make machinima stuff, little short, just about 3 minutes long. Hopefully, get somebody to laugh.
Yeah.
Star Citizen can be a stressful game, as we all know. So if I can bring a little bit of joy or laughter to somebody while they're getting frustrated with getting yeeted into elevators, falling through moons, you know, then I've done a good job.
Yeah, it's nice to have some lighthearted content around this game, eh?
The machinima
Hate it.
is, dude. The potential for machinima. I guess it's always the potential when it comes to Star Citizen. But I feel like we could get some of the best machinima ever created from SC
Easily.
if the the game comes together. I'm just
Have you
imagining.
seen- But have you seen Fatbird's video that was
Yeah.
put out
I love Fatbird.
Yeah.
recently?
Amazing.
Fabulous.
I think
killing it
that shows the
already.
potential of what you
Yeah.
can do with Star Citizen. It's incredible.
Absolutely. With the face over IP stuff, with like all the just
Mhm.
interaction. I'm excited to imagine what we could potentially see if we got a mind like who was behind Red versus Blue, you know?
Yeah.
Back in the Halo days. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yep.
There's a lot of great people doing work already, Wookie, yourself
Oh,
included.
everybody does
So,
that. Everybody will say Wiki, which is fine. It's acceptable.
It's a mix. It's either Wiki or Wookid.
Yeah.
Wicked.
But yeah, I
like
think
it.
it's going to be good.
Yeah,
Let's
I have
jump-
a machinima where Space Tomatoes actually in it coming out. Hopefully next week, maybe the week after. But so far, it's got to be well over 1,000 hours put into this thing.
Holy crap. I'm
Oof,
honored to be a
damn.
part of that. Then.
Yeah, I've
Thank
been
you.
working on it for the
Wow.
last 6 months.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Machinima projects are a hell of a time. Good for you, dude.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about Star Citizen. I want to start with talking about the state of this game, sort of how you guys are feeling about it. We actually were having a really interesting discussion before we got off here about how Star Citizen's being received on YouTube, and how just in general people who are interested in Star Citizen are interacting with it. Throughout the course of this year, they've been focusing on playability. They've clearly just wanted to get more people back into the game through content, buying ships through regular sales, and trying to keep some form of a gripping narrative going. How do you guys think that has done for making the game more interesting and more engaging to the people who have already been backers. You know, the people who maybe took a break because the game wasn't stable enough or waiting for more finalized game mechanics and things like that. Anybody go ahead and start off if you're feeling it.
Well, I mean, I'll say for me, it's been, I've, from a gameplay perspective, somebody that focuses on making gameplay content and playing with my organization and small to large groups. I've had more content than ever. I've had more to do, more content to make than ever this last year, and we've had some of the most fun ever. I think it pretty much most of my org agrees. It's been the best year for playing and staying engaged. The problem is we're very good at giving ourselves reasons to play. We're very good at working together as a group, running, events and ops and things, where we have our own objectives within the objectives or some of the objectives that CIG can provide us, right? And we make a meal out of it, which gives us so much more to do, gives us a lot more to do, more fun to have, and more reasons to play. But the thing still missing is there's not enough to tie it all together. There's not enough reasons for all this to happen more often and more organically. So I think CIG's definitely made the game more engaging this year than ever, and playability wise, in my opinion, it's more playable than ever. And that's my opinion, and people in my community and streams and YouTube videos, people who have gone away for multiple years and come back and they're like, oh my God, this game's changed so much this year. It's like almost a game, it feels like. In that respect, it's definitely improved, but yeah, go ahead.
Well, when people ask you if they should play it now, what do you say? Like if somebody doesn't own the game, and you had mentioned this earlier when they come in and they ask, should I be buying Star Citizen right now? What's your thought process?
Yeah, well, like I say, it's like I said earlier. I always think Star Citizen's, and this has been my, not just this year, but the last few years, my usual response when people ask should I buy it is, if you're really thinking about it, get a $45 game package. Don't spend more than $45. Experience what the game has to offer. Experience the physics grid and the ability to fly from surface to space and then quantum jump to another planet and fly to the surface and land, and do some of the content that's on offer. 2 weeks or so, get a good feel of what Star Citizen is all about, get a feel for what it has to offer, the controversies, and we'll see why people have such a big fuss about it. I always think that's probably worth the money, $45 to experience that. And then beyond that, if you still want to play, you like it, then win-win. That's my general take when somebody asks me like, should I play? But generally now this year, I would say there's more to do than ever. It's just CIG still isn't defining how this game looks long term. Like why are we doing these things more? Well, why are we going to want to do more of this in the future? And I guess that's one thing that we kind of didn't get from CitizenCon this year as well.
Okay. Anybody else feel like their answer has changed when people ask if this game is something you would suggest?
Mine's kind of changed. Like my typical answer is for people to wait till a free fly and see if they enjoy the free fly and then get it. But I've always sort of, I used to say this a lot, and I've started to say it more often, which is $45 is the cheapest you will ever get this game. This game is just going to go up in price. And if you're like, well, I'll get it later, like I'll get it when it releases or whatever, then it's like, then get it now and just wait until it comes out, because you're going to spend more money in the long term if you're waiting for it. But it's even that feels a little off. But I will say, the more I talk with people who come in and say, oh, should I get this game? The more if I say, wait, or, wait until the free fly, every so often people just come back, like not even so often, more often than not, people will come back in the chat within minutes and be like, I bought the game. It's like, did you what it like? It's almost like if you tell them don't, they'll be like, oh, now I have to.
That is honestly,
you can't tell me what to do.
I just say do it. Yeah. Honestly,
do it. Yeah, I agree with DTOX. I mean, if you look at it like $45 for the amount of like dollar per hour of entertainment you get, it's definitely worth it, even just looking at that aspect of it. But especially this year, the game's growing rapidly as far as storyline development, things to do. In my community, I've seen a lot of people that have recently come back into it. Like, and these are people who stopped playing like the Siege of Orison, right? It was still on one server days. They're like, no, I can't do it anymore. It's too buggy. But now, like compared to then, the one server days, it's very, very playable. And I've seen a lot of people who were waiting for better playability now coming back.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I personally, I still ask people when they ask this question to go and watch people's YouTube videos or watch people's streams to just take some time before they get into it, or do the free fly when there's a free fly. Wait until then. I think the $45 argument's a good one, but I still think that there are issues with this game that regular general gamers aren't going to be ready for. Like the persistence issue between patches is a really upsetting thing for people when, you know, you work a whole patch to save up for a ship and you get some cool armor and stuff, and the next patch it's all gone, you know. And that's happened very often enough this year that it's been a persistent issue that people have addressed on the forums. So yeah, that's just my take. I mean, like, to kind of go back to their original question about this year, I mean, I think the content has been great. I mean, this year was the two things I wanted to hit was playability and content, and I think the content side of things is definitely it. Playability, kind of. I think that's definitely been improved, but I still don't feel like either of those things really feel like progress. More like kind of keeping the ship afloat while they're still working on Squadron 42. I just generally get that feeling this year. I mean, when I think of progress, I think about that 1.0 thing that they talked about in the last year's CitizenCon, not this one, but last year's. And when you look at what they have to accomplish in order to get to there, you realize, you know, there's still so much work ahead of them. And there's not been a lot this year moving towards that. Content is not really, I mean, like, there's a story as part of the 1.0 picture, the idea, but it doesn't even touch on the 1.0 story yet, even. So there's, my feeling is it hasn't changed much. I love that they're working on content. I think it gives us something to do in the meantime while they finish out Squadron. But I'm still waiting on some big steps forward. I'm hoping Nyx will feel like another step forward, and then crafting will feel like another step forward.
I am always about I'm one of those weird. I have a weird dual relationship with Star Citizen. Part of me is like, I mean, I do lore, so lore content, new stories in the game means more lore, which is great. And the stories they have been doing have been improving over time. So like the content releases directly connected to the stories has been improving and doing better. But I'm also of the opinion that content itself isn't enough to really make people stick around, because like I love Onyx. Actually, Onyx is great, but Onyx is like 6 hours of content, you know. So sorry, you go.
But I want to add. I want to add to this, but like, I think content is great, and the stories have been improving, but without further feature work to enhance those stories, so like mocap of specific characters and in-person encounters with the characters that are part of the story, I think that ultimately we're going to be still stuck. There's going to be an impassable barrier until they get those features online, where we're going to be stuck with relatively similar stories, like go here, kill this thing. That's ultimately what we're doing physically.
Get this card.
Even though maybe what they're writing and the descriptions are a little bit more interesting. I mean, the actual experience we're having it's still going to be kind of limited. I mean, like, one thing that I will say this year that they've blown out of the water is just I think the set work, the set design. I think they brought over people from Squadron. They must have, because the visual, like the environmental storytelling of the ASD facilities is just like nothing else we've had at least since, back when the Kovalex shipping hub. That was the last time we'd had something like that, where there was all this environmental storytelling. So I think that that's amazing. But ultimately, I mean, it's still missing that one of those key cool things about like a more polished modern game. And it's like you get to talk to somebody, and they, it feels like you're there and you're immersed in the environment. So
I agree. The problem is connection. We have a story with no connection. Yeah. There's no reason for players to feel invested in the Yort storyline, because Yort is just a random character whom is tangentially involved in you getting whatever crafting material you need for Wicklow. So it's they don't have buy-in yet. So like stories are great, but we need something that makes people go, it doesn't feel
example.
It
doesn't feel tangible.
Like, talking about,
right?
or is it just deeper story-driven content, like a cutscene or something?
Well, not even just story-driven content. Like think about like if you could. You were talking about earlier when we were talking about like Tisa Pacheco, Twitch Pacheco, and like going to meet Pacheco and then getting to know her and have an invested interest in her in terms of what she wants to do and her whole thing would add more to the buy-in because you're talking with her rather than her just sending you a message being like, hey, random person, please do this job for me. Like there's there's no connection you feel. Like if you went into like to Brio's Breaker Yard and talked to Scooter to get like some to buy a ship, people would be like, oh, hey, sorry.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, like, and I think like there's so many. If we really think outside of the box of what they could do to make these stories more interesting, I mean, like imagine you had to meet somebody first. I mean, this is kind of going into imaginary territory, but I'm just trying to illustrate like what we're kind of missing is like instead of going straight to the big Twitch Pacheco at Area 18, you need to like work your way up the chain. So maybe somebody in a back alley as you're walking past, I say, come over here, I've got a job for you. Like, and like it feels more like you've stumbled across this thing and you're part of the story, and then you get more invested in it. I think those are the things that Star Citizen is missing. Because like just looking at Robiglass and he's like, oh, do this thing. Like it's no different than anything else. Like a go run this box over to this other place, and you feel disconnected from it. You're not as invested, I think.
I see. So if we ran across like a random encounter, like you said, like somebody on an alleyway, you're over here, like an NPC, the ability, I guess this is where it would be a feature, the ability to talk to an NPC character and then follow this breadcrumb trail that eventually gets to Twitch or something.
Yeah. So it feels like this build up where you get to talk to the big bad, and that big bad's going to give you a really cool mission.
Sure.
It's almost like you can tell that they've... Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say,
I was gonna say, like,
you can tell...
how much of that is a feature? Like, could they do that now? 'Cause we used to. Do y'all remember the guy at Hurston that was in the reclamation, where he would give you the mission to go find the downed satellite? That felt a very buggy version of that, but I did like it.
That's exactly right. And they talked about that specifically at CitizenCon this year. They said that the first one they're going to go back, I think, to do was Recco Battaglia, which is at Levski, and they haven't had the resources to dedicate to doing it because it requires an actor, mocapping, it requires animators, rigging, story, like it requires a lot of different pieces, a lot of different people at the studio to do it, and they're all working on Squadron. So really, the bottleneck is feature work and manpower. They don't have either of those things right now. And that's why we can't get past what we've been experiencing. I mean, it's getting better. What we've had has gotten better, but there's still ultimately going to be like a wall that we hit that we can't get past.
We also had a drought with missions because they were waiting on the mission refactor, weren't they, for so long?
Yeah.
And that's finally started to come shape up this year, late last year, and we're starting to see that now, the fruits of that, with all these new event missions and the picture-in-picture characters coming up when we get missions now. And I mean, that's a huge improvement on its own, just getting someone popping up on your comm screen and telling you the mission. You even get that when you take player bounties now, which is way more immersive. It's a simple addition, but it's way more immersive. Everything to do with missions now is definitely improving, but it's like you said, Morph, like we should be able to walk around ArcCorp and stumble upon a guy that gives us a contract. And what we're describing isn't anything new. This is 10, 20 years of RPG game development history at this point. It's not like we're asking CIG to reinvent the wheel here. Yeah. So it's
even a Chris Roberts game, because like they used to be able to get missions in older games by just going to the bar.
Yeah.
I think that you make a good point there, DTOX. That's something that does not get acknowledged very much this year. You hear people say that the game is entirely focused on org stuff. Everything they've added this year has been for groups and stuff, but this is the first year in a while we've gotten consistent missions that you can complete solo. They're combat focused, which is not as fun for a lot of people, but I'm pretty sure we got like maybe 2 or 3 different types of combat missions over the course of 3 or 4 years before this, and then this year they finally got some like just basic cannon fodder activities for people to do.
And it's not like CIG aren't having these conversations internally. You can like if you ever talk to any of the devs, they're just full of ideas. They've got all these great ideas, but the thing is like the bottleneck is the features, and this is just another example of how features have held back the game. They could only do these big org events because the mission rework, the mission refactor hadn't been done yet, so they couldn't do smaller scale missions. And actually, one of the things they covered in CitizenCon this year, which was really interesting and actually really exciting, is that the mission team has developed further with their feature work and are now, it is going to be possible to have cross-system missions with cross-system shipping. And that is something they couldn't do. They talked about this before, where if you cross a server boundary for server meshing, you would break the mission. They seem to have solved that. That's the indication for, like, it's basically one of the first mission types where they can really cross server boundaries with a mission type, and that could tie into a lot of other missions in the future, hopefully.
Speaking of the little drops of info they made about missions at CitizenCon, there also was a moment I noticed where they mentioned, I think it might have been in the Welcome to Pyro section, the first sort of sandbox thing, whatever you want to call it, that happens when we get to Nyx. Sorry, I said Welcome to Pyro. They mentioned that, sorry, it's too many years,
Pyro. We're moving on from that. We're going to Nyx now.
I was like, I missed the Pyro part.
Sorry, I'm still on the road to 4.0, guys. I haven't got a flat.
When's it coming out? Is it out yet?
One of the things they said there was like you would be able to find evidence when you were searching around these space stations, and they seem to insinuate that evidence might change the outcome or the follow-up contract that you get, which does sound like the investigation missions they talked about in CitizenCon 2022, I think that was, when they did their design brief, and they were like, yeah, you'll be able to go and find different evidence. It was basically a template version of the Covalix mission. And they were like, you'll go and you'll find data pads and you'll find this stuff and you'll have a certain amount of evidence that you may or may not have found. And then when you turn that in, you'll get paid based on whether or not you actually completed the mission or if you fell short because you didn't actually find all the objectives. And they didn't come out and say that about these new missions in Nyx, but they did mention the evidence you find could change the missions that you're going on after that. So I think there are some little bits of things they've been working on throughout the years that maybe didn't end up making it into the game the way they advertised to us, but it does sound like they're getting folded kind of back into the mission system and whatever it is they're trying to do to create more opportunities. But we'll see. That's a little copious talk. Let's talk about CitizenCon Direct.
I didn't put that together. I didn't put those things together. So well done.
I will find the spot for you and let you have a listen yourself. I didn't really catch it until like my second or third time listening through. Okay. But let's talk about CitizenCon Direct. What vibes did you guys get from that overall? Obviously, we all want different things from the game right now, us and every player out there. But CIG seems to have their own idea of how they want to move forward. Do you think they're handling this well? Do you think it's looking like a proper 2026 and what you would expect, or are they making some wrong turns in your opinion?
I'll start off by saying it wasn't what we wanted, but it is what we should have. It felt okay. I'll put it in a different way.
Not the CitizenCon we needed, but the CitizenCon we deserved.
Yes, kind of. It's not even that we deserve. It's that, like, there's so many times. How many times has CIG come out with a CitizenCon where they release something and we've all been like, great, we'll see that in 7 years. Like
every year.
We've all made that. Every year there's at least one thing that they do. They just go, you sit there and you go like, yep. Like when they do base building, like, oh, it's going to come out in the next 18 months. Like I personally was like, no, it's not. Like this is going to do the typical CIG thing where like they get really ambitious about it. They sit down and do it. And then they go, oh, this is a lot harder than we thought. And we need to break this up into 17 different releases. And then they eventually release it 3 years after they've announced it. Like,
yeah.
Like it's not I'm not trying to like attack CIG for that,
You're
but
a
it's a
doomer.
typical. I'm a doomer, yes. But this year felt a little different in that it was what CIG clearly had in the pipe. These are things that CIG have been working on. They were even showing us like
Yes.
white box assets. So it's like, okay, so this feels more like everything that they've showed should be able to be our way at some point in the next 12 to 18 months. Like, barring weird things that happen, like, oh, the game is super unstable, so we have to spend some time to fix it or whatever. Like, this all felt like content that they were, and it was content driven mostly, not feature driven. So, and I think that's the reason why I say it's not what we wanted, because I'm sure all of us wanted features. We want some features to be added, like engineering and scanning and Maelstrom and all those sorts of things. But but like, we didn't get it. We got what we know they can do, because this last year proved they can do that. So
yeah,
I think that's my opinion on it. It's not as exciting as people hoped it was going to be, but it was good. I think it's good in terms of setting expectations for the future, good or bad.
Definitely whelming.
Yep.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard that actually.
I think we all
people whelming.
Whelming, yeah. I think we all basically I set my expectations, managed them beforehand, but we're all probably secretly hoping for some juicy feature highlight or something, right? We all want that little touch of copium at the end, but no, generally it was a pretty based CitizenCon, I guess. It was pretty, I gave it like a 6 out of 10. Most of my community gave it like a 6 out of 10, which isn't like a bad score. It's like it was a middling CitizenCon. And I think I got the impression that like the team said to Jared, look, this is the resources you have. This is the time we wanted to run. And this is what we wanted to talk about, do your best. And I think Jared did a good job with what he had, from what I can tell, right? It felt like he probably didn't have a huge amount to work with. And, they had to kind of hit a lot of notes, and he did hit quite a lot of those notes. And that's it, right? There wasn't it wasn't a grand marketing job like the Star Engine showcase or the base building 1.0 showcase over the last couple of years. It was like everybody said, it was like a big extended ISC. So generally, I think it was good overall, but yeah, it wasn't anything mind blowing, and I don't think it wanted to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think DTOX and Paul are very correct. This is like a tangible CitizenCon. This is before, like Paul was saying, they were talking about stuff that we know we're not going to see in the next 2 years, right? Space station building, right? Right. We all know that is not going to be anytime soon, crafting our own space station. This one was more tangible, more realistic, like, hey, this is where we're at. We're going to have Nyx, not in a year. We're going to have it next month, next patch. So it's like already in the barrel, loaded and ready to go. I think to me, it felt like they didn't want to overpromise and get people's hopes up too high and not be able to deliver on it in a reasonable amount of time. Doing it this way, it's more reasonable. Like crafting, the crafting machine, I think we'll probably see that. I think pretty quickly, would be my guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also came into this with limited expectations. I with only 2 hours for them to do this, I could not think they were going to do something absolutely massive. So, I created a video ahead of time that laid out what I would hope to see, and I given the pacing of what they need to do to get to a 1.0 release with 5 star systems, I said, I would like to see Nyx being released like really, really soon, because I think that would be it's going to take as long as it took for them to do Pyro. We're going to be here for another 5-10 years. So Nyx this year would be great, because then you have to think about it. Like they'd have to do a star system for a year for the next 3 years to even be 3 years to 1.0. And that's still 3 years, it's probably going to be longer than that. Right. So they showed off Nyx and that they're going to release it soon, which is great. And they showed off crafting, which I also really wanted them to show off, because that's a super important mechanic of Star Citizen that ties together all these islands of content and features. At least it starts to. I mean, the one that they showed off was very entry level, and that's usually how CIG does it nowadays, right? They do something really simple first to start testing the mechanics. So for me, I think they kind of hit the key things that they needed to actually be at par at least. And then I think they exceeded some of my expectations with the world stuff. The Genesis tech is incredibly impressive, and it doesn't add anything to what we can do, but at least it makes what we can do much prettier. I'm really excited for that. So, I liked it.
I want to mow that grass.
I'm really copious about the what mining updates might come with the Planet Tech update. I know I shouldn't put my expectations on that, but I'm really hoping that we get something significant from mining over the next 6 months as they bring that in. I want to go back.
What could be interesting about mining is if the mining ties into the crafting system where specific things are needed at specific types of quality to craft a certain item. I think that's what makes mining more interesting, because I think mining is actually, as far as I can tell, one of the most well-developed loops in all of the game. It's just its own isolated little loop, not connected to anything else.
For me, it's the resource spawning. The idea that every mineable rock is in its own pre-shaped little mound of minerals that don't look like any other rocks, that aren't connected to anything else. Like, we're not mining geodes, we're not bore mining. I definitely want to see there be an expansion from what we're actually looking for to mine from, because as of right now, it's kind of boring. I want to go back to what you had said though, Wookie. You mentioned that they came out and they said that Nyx was coming out in a month, and I think that if there weren't any leaks, that definitely would have caught everybody by surprise. Even with the leaks, I think I was still like, oh, okay, cool. But do you guys think that would have been a better like mic drop moment if they had closed out the show with that instead?
Well, I say yes, but the instancing with the fleet battle was just phenomenal, man. Like, it looked amazing. Who knows if it's going to actually run that way, but it looks really, really fun. Having that, attacking that base at the end, that's very cinematic, and a lot of time went into that. So I feel like making machinima, granted not the level they do it, CIG does it, but they probably had two options. Like, hey, do we end with, showing Nyx, the planet, it's pretty slow, pretty music, or do we end with, badass firefight in space?
Yeah, I think they did the right call. I think the Nyx surprise instantly got me invested in the CitizenCon, from the start, I think. And I was like, oh, wow, they're serious about stuff in this one already. So, I mean, they spend a lot of time on Nyx and discussing the lore and things. And that makes perfect sense when you realize this is going out to thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that don't follow Star Citizen and don't know the lore and stuff, right? But for us who are familiar with the system already and know all of this stuff, that felt a little bit like it dragged a bit, but I totally understand why they did it that way. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like opening with the announcement that we're getting Nyx, I was like, what? It took me by surprise. But then again, I don't follow the leaks so closely. I do like to try and let myself be surprised now and then. So everyone, I didn't think we were going to get Nyx this year. I was saying I don't think we're going to get it this year, maybe early next year.
I owe somebody a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I didn't think it was coming this year.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised.
Yeah.
I was a bit surprised.
Do you guys think that, well, I didn't, Historian or Morph, did you guys want to comment on that?
On the Nyx, or on
just how they announced it.
Like, should they have ended with it, or should they led with that?
Yeah.
I think I say, are you trying to get me to talk about Nyx 1 again? Because I'm not going to talk about Nyx 1 again. I think it was either way, it's a good presentation technique. The starting of it, because I think the whole thing was about Nyx. Like, this, it was basically about Nyx. So you had to sort of lead with it's coming out this month.
That's true.
So it sets the expectations of the things we're going to see are in November going forward. I think that was a better one, because it would have been I think set improper expectations if they did it at the very end, where they're like, oh yeah, by the way, Nyx is coming out next month. Then people would have thought everything they saw was coming out next month. Whereas this one, it was like, hey, here. These is the over the next year. This is what we're doing.
Yeah, it was chronological. That's a really good point.
Yeah, and I thought that leading with it was a good idea, because It made me think at the beginning of the presentation, if this is what they're revealing at the start, there must be some good stuff in the presentation, because you wouldn't want to end it weakly. You can't lead with something strong and have a weak ending. You have to have a strong start and a strong end. That's a really, really basic presentation format. So honestly, though, I think that personally, I was expecting something a bit more than the strength run that they showed near the end. I thought that was a little underwhelming. I mean, it's cool. Don't get me wrong. I think it's very cool, but it's really quite similar to what we've already had. It's a space fight, ground fight. There wasn't like a cool big new mechanic like, oh, we're gonna have base building, or we're gonna have I don't know, engineering's gonna be available as well, or like
Squadron 42 releases at this time.
Oh my God.
Something that would have been, I think, more, that would have hit better. That would have capstoned it much better. It would have been more proportional, I think, to the Nyx release announcement. But for what it was okay. Again, 2 hours, what could they have really done? I think that they did a pretty good job with 2 hours they said that they were going to give us.
Yeah, that's fair. So taking all that into account, it was a Nyx show. It was very focused on what's happening with Nyx, what's coming with Nyx. And just like with Pyro, they kind of have tried to angle this as being a change for the game. I think Pyro had a ton of potential to change the game. I think it has fallen well short of that potential. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but everybody's got different feelings about how Pyro has fit into Star Citizen. When Nyx is coming in, it does seem like they're introducing a couple new practices, things they've learned over the last year or two, and they're trying to set it up to be a different kind of system from the others. How do you feel about all of the additions that they said are coming to Nyx from CitizenCon, and how does it change your opinion on how the game's supposed to play? Does it feel like they've shifted anything in a major way that players might want to know has shifted the philosophy or just the way that Star Citizen works?
I'm curious to how many people's going to be going to Nyx, right? Like, so Pyro, not a lot of people go there. I'm sure CIG is going to learn things, but like the problem with Pyro, I know people who's never stepped foot in Pyro. I love Pyro. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love it. It's beautiful. Music's awesome. It's got its problems. It's a very big system, even though they shrank it down. So it takes a long time to travel to do a mission, and then to get a mission, you got to travel back to a planet or moon to be within essentially a comms range, I guess. And that, I'm not sure if that's because of like a back end issue that we can't just get a mission no matter where we're at. I don't know, but we have to go to there's a lot of travel time in Pyro, and a lot of people feel like it's not worth the travel time to do the missions over there. It's pretty to go look at, but for doing missions, I know a lot of people who don't want to do it. So I'm hoping that they've learned from Pyro on that part, and Nyx is much more streamlined for doing missions.
I think they really got to work on their density. Like, they want people to be in local places running that kind of stuff, but there's still not enough in one place to keep you there.
I mean, I think ultimately with Pyro, the disappointing thing about it, there's multiple disappointing things about it. I mean, visually, it's stunning. With the music, as you've pointed out, is incredible. Pedro Camacho, again, once he's amazing. He's like, if we didn't have him, I feel like half of the soul of Star Citizen would be gone. Like, he's such an amazing composer.
A consistent win for CIG.
Yeah, consistent win for CIG. But the thing, like, if you guys remember back, I mean, it's so easy to forget all the things they talk about through all these years, but there was supposed to be consequence to action with a reputation built up between these different factions in Pyro, and that would allow you to access different parts of the station. So if you killed one set of people too many times, they wouldn't like you, they wouldn't let you land. That was supposed to be a thing. The star was supposed to cause radiation, you'd have to hide. There was actually environmental problems, and they talked about this idea of risk versus reward, and that was kind of the reason why you would go into Pyro, because you'd go in there, it'd be dangerous, but there's something that you could get there that's really valuable and bring back to Stanton. And then what ended up happening is that through the course of its release, and even afterward, with the introduction of things like Hathor, there's not really too much differentiation between the systems. I mean, one system, I guess you could argue, is easier to murder people than the other, but I would say in the Hathor event, people were murdering each other all the time without any kind of worry about going to prison anyway. So I just think, it's going to be hard for them to make Nyx actually at this point, without any further feature development, feel particularly distinguished from the other two systems, other than the visuals, right? And other than like the lore storytelling. That's one of the things I kind of worry about it. But I mean, again, they don't have enough manpower to do this. So it's just one of those things we probably just have to wait until they finish Squadron 42 to flesh out more. I really hope they go back and they do all that rep stuff with Pyro and they don't completely abandon it.
Do they have to?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
agreed.
so.
Oh god,
I
yeah.
hope they bring back the solar flare too.
Yeah. I mean, we don't
Yeah,
even have physicalized suns yet either. So like those two things, I mean, I would love to see them talk more about physical suns and the effects of those suns on those systems.
Mm. Yeah, I don't think Nyx is going to be. Yeah, I mean, that was one of the disappointing things about the CitizenCon is that, yeah, we're getting Nyx, but it is bare bones. And that's why I didn't expect Nyx this year. It's because, well, why would they give us a system they don't have anything to put in it yet? So I don't expect it this year. And then they're like, yeah, you're getting it next month. Okay, cool. But what are we going to do there? And, you know, it's they kind of, and this sort of like as a seasoned backer at this point since 2014, you know, they kind of talked about during the CitizenCon is we're going to do the most Star Citizen thing ever. We're going to build Nyx in front of you. And I'm like, yeah, that was charming like 6 years ago. But, you know, I want things to be...
They acted like that was something new, though. Was the weirdest thing. Like, we're going to do this. I know that's what you do with Stanton, though. I don't understand.
They're like, Pyro has came in complete, but we're going to build Nyx in front of you. And everybody's like, Pyro's complete?
Yeah. Exactly. So I'm sitting there like, yeah, that, you know, that's a really charming, you know, headline to grab us with years ago. But these days it doesn't really fly with me anymore. I'm kind of over that. I'd like it to arrive with your vision and features and, you know, things that are systemic to the rest of the game that's going to make me want to go there and visit Nyx and then go to Pyro and Stanton and, you know, make more sense in the overall grand scheme of things. And in reality, we're getting, you know, the storefront window Nyx, and when you go in the shop, there's nothing to buy. You know, it's just we're getting like the set dressing, but none of the substance really, other than the sort of interstellar hauling missions, right? Which is great, and that's good, but that's not going to drive things like piracy. It's not going to drive things like mercenary work because it's hauling commodity. It's mission commodities, right? There's no profit in that for anybody, so it's not going to drive any systemic gameplay. But it's a good test bed. But they could have done that with Pyro and Stanton, right? Nyx doesn't introduce that. That's something they could have tested between Pyro and Stanton anyway. So
the cynical part of me.
Disappointing. Sorry, go ahead.
I say the cynical part of me says that they wanted to release it because they needed something to release at the end of the year to be like, look at new shiny. Look at the cool thing we did. See, we're making progress. And so they're like, well, what do we have? And basically CIG is like, nothing that won't actively hurt the stability of the game. So they're like, well, Nyx, but Nyx isn't done. Whatever, just throw it out there. You know, the people like Levski, let's put Levski in there. That's my cynical side, which is just like they did it because they wanted to keep the attention at the end of the year. But
I mean, you have a point there.
That's absolutely what it is. I think that's what it is. I think they had an internal conversation about the release of Pyro and how they wanted to wait to release it with everything finished. And obviously they didn't meet that mark. They only really, I mean, if I'm being generous, got halfway with it. So they must have said internally, well, do we do the same thing with Nyx? Probably not, because then we're going to have to wait another 1-2 years to have a fully complete star system. And in that time, what can we really give them? We're still working on Squadron 42. We have to give them something, and we'll just give them Nyx piecemeal. And you know what? In terms of engagement, I think it actually is a good thing, because as with what happened with Stanton, if you guys remember the build up to every planet they released, I mean, they were just planets. We're thinking back on it. They're not whole star systems, but people were like flying manually to Microtech to see if they could actually find it. People were so excited. It was ludicrous. And so, I mean, like, I think in terms of getting people excited, it could be really good to do it. And I support it. I like the idea of adding it in piecemeal. Let's just see what you got and add stuff in as you go along. If that's all you can deliver for us, all right, go ahead. All right, do it. Let's see what you got.
I think that's a really good point, because all of the things that they're talking about bringing to Nyx that would take its extra feature development, like the instances, they're not coming this year. They're coming next year. So you get into a basic Nyx and flesh it out, and it makes for an easy content release. It is really it's a content release. It's a new mission, a new couple sets of missions, some repeats of the things they've already had, and then just like the landing zone and stuff. So that's a really good point, dude. I think the one place they could make it matter is economy and detox. That's what it feels like you were getting at. Like, if there are minerals that are actually worth it, if they do double down on this whole industrial focus in the system, there could be reason to go there. It's a big if.
But that's feature work and that's manpower. I mean, those are two things that they don't have. So I'm really worried that there's no way for them to.
We just need to keep badgering Nick. Nick, the economy guy.
Yeah.
That's one thing I was wondering when I was rewatching the video. They were talking about, Jared's like, oh, you go inside the rock cracker, you fly your ship in it, which is really cool. And then Jared's like, oh, so you can make a fortune. And they're like, well, that's up to the economy team. It's like, how would that be balanced? Because I feel like you wouldn't actually be able to go in there and make like enough to buy every ship in the game, because then that would kind of throw it off balance. It's like, it's curious how they're going to balance the economy for like that particular mission.
Yeah, Rockcracker seems like it's designed for crafting.
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff feels like it's designed for, like, you're not going to get necessarily some valuable material. You're going to get high grade of material of what we already have. So that way, it's one of the ways you can grab it. But
like that's
again, that requires crafting a feature to be in the game.
That's like what your org wants to do before they go off to build a base or something.
Yeah, and that's why crafting is so important. Even if it's just a really basic implementation of crafting in the game, where you can craft a much better Omni Sky or much better Badger Repeater, and you need this type of element at that moment. Like when you can just even craft one thing that's better than what you can buy in the store or on the website, you're gonna have org members saying, all right, I need this and this and this. You go over there, like, get that stuff for me. We're looking for specific things. It's no longer about the value of an individual, like it's no longer about the value of whatever titanium or whatever. It's something that you actually need. It's not just some arbitrary money that you make from selling it or refining it. You need that thing to make the thing that you want, and it drives, I think, a lot more interesting gameplay in Star Citizen. Makes the economy more interesting.
For crafting, when somebody makes like a better gun or better weapons, do you think they're going to, like, how is that going to be balanced against people who just have like a regular gun? Is that going to be like, do y'all foresee that being
very
like a
good question
problem?
They did not answer that. They did not talk about it. And that's one of the things that really bugs me about it.
Because I was thinking that today, like you come in as a new player, you could be like, yeah, I only have this stock FS9. I don't have the time to build up my org and friends to go get the rare mineral in Nyx to make, the really badass FS9. And then they would have to be balancing, but how they're going to do it,
the game will be, from this point onwards, when crafting's introduced, it comes down to an organic balancing act, basically. Like the what is it? The cream rises to the top, whatever the expression is. Eventually there'll be new baselines established by players on what is the new standard, and what you're buying from the shops is substandard. So that's just something players are going to have to get used to and learn, and get used to it. Basically, the problem we have is there isn't an auction house in Star Citizen. So the people who have the best stuff are just going to hoard the best stuff, and the only way you're going to, there's no way for you to get access to that stuff unless you go do it all yourself, ultimately. Or we use one of the biggest drivers of gameplay right now, the UEX core website, where you go and trade with other players. It's like,
can't you just make a freaking like simple trader system already?
What do you mean simple? Dude. What do you?
They don't have bartering either.
Just being able to like put it into just put it into your freight elevator, and you have a screen where you can go sell something, and someone says, "I will buy that," and it transfers into their elevator. Like,
listen, look, you see Chris here in this window. You want to ask him about that? No, you need a new system. All right, you need inventory meshing, and it needs to incorporate into the engine and work on AWS, and then it also needs to combine all assets together.
Oh god.
I have been for I think years now been saying CIG just needs to make take use of the actual like convention centers they have, make a wandering bazaar where you can buy and sell weird things, and then have a console in in these locations that's just a player trade, and you just do it on weekends, so players who will log in on the weekends have access to it, and you got yourself a simple, easy hotspot where everyone's going to come go and interact, and you want people to interact. CIG, just do that. But it's like,
I think that's what everyone was
You have
missing.
one where you got to have a crew and people to guard the stuff that's on your table, you know?
yeah.
I think that's what everyone was missing from this show. Like, if they had shown social tools and stuff, it would have skyrocketed it from like a 6.5 average to like an 8 for people, because we're all at this point where we're finally starting to think about it at least a little bit as an MMO. Like the player numbers are rising. They've got in-game items that you can earn. The dungeons and raids are starting to show up, but you still can't freaking talk to people.
Yeah, that's my number one thing for them to address as the social aspect of the game.
Yeah.
Why can't we talk?
Grouping up.
That's crazy.
We don't even have local chat.
Yeah,
man. And so I think a lot of people saw what they were adding in Nyx, and they're like, this sounds really cool, but there's no way I can do that if I can't group up, looking for group, freaking trading stuff. And so it all feels a little bit ahead of its time.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, that's actually one of the things I wanted them to touch on in CitizenCon, but they didn't, was the social tools. Because if you think about links like instancing, how's that going to work without a party finder? Like, there's so many issues without having more tools. Like, we have no org tools. We can't see who's in what org in game. And again, like having a barter system or an economy system or like a commodity value tracker of some kind would add just so much to the game. We're missing so much of that.
Yeah.
Yes. So much that ties everything together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My assumptions from last year when they said this was going to fix stuff, I just assumed that it was going to fix the comms and stuff and being able to group up. I thought that would have been something they would have addressed.
Prioritized. Yeah.
It actually made me melt a little. Go ahead.
That's feature work, apparently. I mean, because the issue I think they had with it is because again, meshing is the cross mesh connection with comms. Voice comms are limited to 50 players still. So if it goes more than 50 in a shard, then it breaks and no one can use it. That's why sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
I melted a little bit last year when they came out on CitizenCon, and they were like, yeah, so we're making some changes to the social tools, and like they showed us all the concepts of everything else, but the one real thing that they showed us was like they were actively working on wasn't the voice, it wasn't the chat channels, it was FOIP, which is great. it's a good tech and it's useful, but the getting a statement on FOIP instead of VOIP is just, it's so
crazy.
Yeah,
so
really
CIG.
Annoying.
That's such a CIG thing.
It is.
No, they don't want to hear about the integral features of like voice comms that every other game has and vastly improves everyone's experience. They want to hear about the webcam tech that tracks your face.
That's so cool.
In the future, you waggle your eyebrows at each other.
Hey, I'm into it. Let's do it. I don't have as great control over my right eyebrow, so I might be saying bad words without trying to. Let's talk more about the instancing, because that is actually another place where I think a lot of people are feeling like the game is changing from what they were expecting, but then on the other hand, a lot of people are still like, hey, this is necessary, and it's kind of something that's always been in the plans to do. How are you guys feeling about instancing and the idea that they are focusing now more on making these curated and like purpose-built gameplay scenarios rather than leaving everything open sandbox? Is it changing the game in a big way from what you thought it would be?
Well, I want to start this because I just did a video on this and I posted it like an hour before we started this. One really important thing to start off with this conversation is to really look at what they said and realize that they didn't provide any real specifics. So when they talk about instancing, they have an idea of that they want to do instancing, but we really have no idea how it's going to work. There are so many questions when you really dive into how it's actually going to work. It could be really bad. It could be really good. I think all we can really say is what we like about the current version of Star Citizen and its open like format, and what we don't like about it, and what we hope that instancing can kind of curtail, right? Because we really don't know what they're going to do. Like, just to pose some questions to you, like, what happened if it works with parties? And they didn't say it would. They didn't say parties would actually determine who's an instance. If it works that you're standing on a shuttle together and one person's in a party and one person's not, does the person not in a party disappear? What happens if the instance is catered towards 20 people and there's only one person who goes into the instance? Does the instance change its balance for that one person? Or does it just give you an instance as a single person going in there? And if that's the case, are we going to have hundreds of shards getting spawned by single people going into solo instances? That sounds like it's untenable for server meshing. Like, there's so many questions about how this could possibly work. So I just want to start off with that before we get too much into it, because I don't think it's a good idea to just talk about instancing like we know exactly what they're going to do with it.
That's a good point.
So, yeah.
One of my questions as we get closer has been, we're playing this game where you're kind of supposed to live in this open environment where, let's say you log in and you hit up your friends who were with you before when you logged out, but they've taken their spaceships and flown to somewhere. So you hit them up, you give them a call. They're like, hey, yeah, we're fighting against this crew down in this underground facility. We're about halfway through. You want to come join us? This might be something, this is probably definitely something that's been solved by other MMOs. So maybe you guys can inform me of how this works. But like, if that person wants to catch up with their group, but that group is already locked in an instance, can you still join them?
I mean, it depends. Some MMOs have drop in, drop out, but a lot of stuff is locked out once you come in. So
yeah, I think WoW was what there was actually like a menu where you'd see people who are going into the instance, and then maybe I'm misremembering that.
I think they did that with retail WoW, but I mean that's one of the many reasons I don't like retail WoW, and I prefer the old way of doing things, like a freaking old dude gamer or something. But I don't like too much instancing. I'm all for it in certain areas of Star Citizen, definitely. It's always been unavoidable in my opinion. Like they have had to instance things in this game at some point in the future, but we don't know exactly how they're going to implement instancing yet. I don't like how they were showing things like Hathor while talking about instancing, because in my opinion that's something that
they showed it up.
They were running B-roll of Stormbreaker, Hathor, and Onyx facility, I think, or something else, while Benoit was talking about instancing. And there were shots of like people in Hathor shooting at the worms and stuff. And I'm thinking, all right, you're laying this B-roll underneath instancing talk. Worries me a little bit about something like Hathor, where I really believe that is a perfect. We just got that this year, and that is the perfect showcase of what an open world Star Citizen is, in my opinion. And
I am 100% with you on that.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, and now you're like already talking about instancing that. Why? This is a perfect example of keeping a great piece of gameplay open world and what's the word, like you unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen, who's going to turn up, how big a group's going to be, how small. Maybe you get there one day, it's very empty, you get in, get out, blast open the cave, get Karenite. The next day, it's filled with a 20, 50 man org, whatever, right? That's the exciting part about Hathor.
I think the word you're looking for is sterilized, right? Because what a sterile environment is where it always is the exact same thing. There's nothing that ever changes from what you expect. And in an environment that's open, unexpected things can happen. It feels more alive. It feels more like an actual universe, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hathor was the first time.
And for sure, and also, Benoit then he talks about, we can't. It's not just PV. It's PvP too, and it's like, oh well, you're getting in dangerous territory when you talk about instancing PvP, because then you're getting into Warsong Gulch, Alterac Valley, World of Warcraft, sterilized PvP, where every side is the exact same amount of people. And then when you start balancing how many people are on each side, you've got to start balancing what ships are on each side. And then before you know it, you've got like this, you've basically got Arena Commander in the PU. And it's like, but that's not Star Citizen. That's not what people want.
Well, that's not what some people want. There are people who do want that, and they're in my comments, and I'm looking at them.
There's probably people watching this right now who will be talking about it too.
For sure.
I have said this before. I am an old school Daisy Bean Bandit. Like, for those who knows what that means. Like back when Daisy mod, there was a bug where like you couldn't get food, no food spawns. So the only way you could get food was by killing new spawns because they always spawned with a tin of beans. So like everyone was killing each other for those beans. And the dynamics I've always sought with Star Citizen is like that sort of Rust DayZ experience. However, it's tempered with rules and some story and some like these sorts of little siphoned off instance experiences. So I'm really excited about instancing because what it can do. But I have a concern that it seems like CIG with things like Hathor is that CIG wants to create unique sandbox experiences, but they have no way of balancing it to 700 people. And because they have no way of balancing it to 700 people, they're like, well, we're just going to give up and make all of our sandbox experiences instanced so that we can balance it properly so everyone can have a good time, which sort of defeats the purpose of a sandbox, which is just like, I should be able to show up alone and sneak in and get something. A great example of this is, why am I blanking on the name? We were just talking about it earlier. The new sort of jump town sort of emerged by accident because CIG's own Dupree. A great example of this is I was doing a long stream and I was trying to get into Dupree and I kept getting hit because I was flying my raft because everyone flies with the raft. So I came back with the 315Ps. I was a little bit more stealthy, and as I got there, two rich kids were having a money fight, where it was a Idris and a Polaris decided to go at each other. So I snuck in and was able to do it while they were all fighting around. And that experience was not scripted. It couldn't have happened in Star Citizen as CIG wants to design it. And that's the sort of things that we need more of. We need more CIG laying out the groundwork and saying, "Good, go," and that's not instancing. So while I am interested in instancing, I'm afraid that they're moving more towards instancing than this. My hopium is that maybe copium is that they are doing this because it's the new technology they have, and then once they get that down and working, they'll come back to the Star sandbox. But it does make the people who enjoyed old school Jump Town kind of feel like, well, but why can't we just make our own content?
It really is so much up in question. Because I think we can all agree that there are places in the game that do need instancing, but like DTOX is saying, when you start showing certain things in the game alongside a conversation about instancing, it's like, okay, do we connect these things here? Are you trying to be more deliberate with what you're showing while you talk about these things? Because I would say, for instance, the joint task force thing, that makes a ton of sense as being instanced. The underground facilities, the ASD underground facilities, instance the hell out of those. Even distribution centers, they make sense. But when you start getting into some of these more out and about kind of like open environments, it just doesn't sound fun. And this is coming from somebody, I know all of you guys have played MMOs at this point. Wookie, do you have a history with MMOs?
Not really. I mean, outside of like Elite Dangerous, I mean, I guess that was sort of MMO.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my stuff's been, Skyrim stuff. I'm not really online with, so it's really I don't. But as far as when they were talking about the instancing, my knee-jerk reaction was, I absolutely hate this. Most of my stuff is, machinima, right? I gotta go film. Like I'm spending hours getting set up. I might spend 5 hours to get a shot that lasts for 30 seconds on screen. So when Pyro come out, I absolutely loved that I had to like convince a bunch of buddies to like man the Polaris. I'm reaching out to groups like For Science. I'm like, hey man, can you patrol the airspace? We got a shot to film, and I can't lose Meemaw suit. This is before we kept our armor. It was like my most valuable possession. But it was so fun. Like we're in Pyro, players are coming to do their thing. They're shooting them down. Like, okay, everybody's dead. Okay, action, roll. Film what we're going to film. Okay, players are coming in. Okay, everybody, grab your guns. Let's fight these guys. Okay, they're dead. Back to filming. Like to me, that was fun, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I do see some advantage of instancing, like y'all were just saying, like ASD facilities for sure, because there are ways. Organized groups can be a problem. Like if you get a big org who just wants to camp out at an ASD facility and not let you in just for shits and giggles, right? they can do that and you cannot complete the mission, which can be a problem. If it's one person, you can deal with it, but when it's like an organized group, then it becomes much more difficult. And for that reason, I understand instancing and a need for it. But like I said, I wouldn't want to see that at Hathor. I wouldn't want to see it at any like the big the sites like Paul was saying, because you just don't get that kind of experiences from just letting a few people at a time in. And then even if you do, like Morph was saying, like how do you prevent, like, okay, let's say it needs 50 people, let's say 5 of you, like, you know, usually people are in groups like what, 3 or 5, I would say on average, that's playing Star Citizen when you group up with people. So you get in there 5 of your buddies, but you get in there with like a group that might have more, like 15, and now they're just gonna, you know, you're fishing a bucket and they're just shooting you for fun. Like, how do you get out of that instance with those guys? Like, you didn't want to be in there with them.
Yeah. I mean, it just raises so many questions.
I think it's also important to, I think it's really important to say here that instancing, even in its most sterile and isolated form, would not fix issues with, you know, instances being camped, because instances would always have an entrance. So say, for example, the ASD facility becomes an instance and there's only one in each part of Stanton, right? That's how you do an instance. You go to the location and it gets instanced, but that entrance is not instanced. So you could have an org just camping it and killing anybody who tries to approach it. Like, I think that is more of an issue with Star Citizen's lack of disincentives, the lack of mechanics to hopefully make people not do that, because obviously prison's not really been too much of a disincentive, and there's not much of a response from NPC AI to come prevent that from happening. So there are clearly other things that need to happen to solve griefing, and I don't think instancing will solve that. It can help a bit, but it won't solve it. I think that instancing really, where I see it coming into play, because in this actually has to do with Elliot. Elliot was on screen, and he was the one who worked on Siege of Orison. That was his baby. Is that Siege of Orison, if you guys recall, if you got to play it, had a lot of problems with pacing. It had a 3-phase kind of story structure. You'd go from platform to platform, killing the bosses. You get some loot there, right? But with the open format that they had, it'd be impossible to arrive right when it started. Even if you did, there'd be, you know, experienced players that'd be running through it faster than you, and they'd be killing everything faster than you. And then if you were a new player, like, how would you know where to go? You'd just be stuck watching things pop up in your screen saying, oh, the boss has been killed. Meanwhile, everything's dead. All the loot's taken. It's a terrible experience for you, right? I mean, they're just instancing. I think what it does is enables them to make an experience like Siege of Orison work the way it does in the most ideal situation of when it, you know, like a fresh server. Like that was the best experience of Siege of Orison. If the server was fresh, it was the first one to run, you went to it, you know it was going to be good, especially if you were first in line to get on there. That instancing would make it so that every single time you do that, that's how it would be. That's where I see instancing helping. But instancing could also really do something bad to Star Citizen, and this is the point I made in the video. I've had I know a lot of people like to cite bad experiences with the open universe, and they tend to, you know, bad experiences tend to stick out in your mind more than good ones do. But I just recently, with the ASD facilities, had 2 good experiences back to back, not streaming, so I don't want to see somebody pull the streamer card on this. Plus, you can't recognize somebody in game, right? You don't know who's who. Where I just ran across somebody, they flashed their light at me, I didn't shoot them, and we decided to work together in an ASD facility. You know, we just went through it. Happened twice to me in the span of a week. And then, you know, one of them became, you know, a member of the community. Didn't know who I was until the end. I thought it's amazing to have those types of experiences, just to randomly come across somebody. There's a social element to it that I think is super special, that these events can create, because they have this effect of bringing people together in this one location and creating these unprompted, unscripted, you know, convergences of different members of the community in a way that's much better and more consistent than you would find on, say, the Spectrum forums or on YouTube or like any artificial third-person platform. You get more interactions in game, and I would argue that's the most healthy way to keep a community excited and alive, is to have those interactions happen in game. If you make things instanced, completely instanced, where it just locks anybody else out that you don't know, then you completely lock out the opportunity to run across a new friend. I know you might run across a new asshole, but a lot of the time, some of the time, there'll be a new friend, right? And so if they are going to make any kind of approach, take any kind of approach, I really hope that they take a hybrid approach. And somebody in the comment section in the recent video I posted had a pretty good thought, and that's like anybody on the lift with you or anybody on the shuttle with you is going into that instance. So there's this opportunity to run into somebody, and it's not just locked into a party. So I would like to see them do more of a hybrid approach to it, where if it's a 50-person instance, like it's catered towards 50 people, that it combines different parties and different people up to 50, and then you can go in, and that's when it starts. So you still have the opportunity for those unexpected encounters with players, both good and bad. Unfortunately, the bad part again needs to be fixed by other systems in Star Citizen, not instancing. But importantly, you have those opportunities for good experiences, to meet new people, to have great experiences of a guy running in to save you and, get you with a med pen and get you up. Like, thanks, new friend. Like that kind of thing had happened to me in Siege of Orison a couple times. Again, they didn't know who I was. It wasn't because I was streaming. So they just saw somebody dead and they saved me. And that was great. So yeah, I mean, that's really my piece about instancing. That's what I'd like to see out of it. I don't know what they're going to do, but I really hope that it's a hybrid approach.
They certainly have a problem that they keep not fixing with security and feeling safe in this game. And as they keep implying, instancing's not going to fix that. And we've even talked about reputation earlier today.
Roofers will find a way around it. Yeah.
Dude, I'm starting to feel like this is the biggest problem that they have. I mean, they have plenty of big problems, but this is just, it's becoming almost embarrassing that they're not talking about it, because it's changing how people feel about the game. People are actively calling for instancing because they feel a certain way because the game's not working correctly. And it feels like at every turn I'm worried that CIG is going to try and balance or format their game based off of the feedback and the things that happen from people who are already playing a broken game.
Yeah, you feel like you're worried they're going to have whiplash and just going to go the complete opposite direction, 180, and do something extreme.
Yeah, like with the medical system or with respawning or something.
Like the problem is that it feels like they're reacting to situations instead of proactively planning for situations.
Yeah.
So like instead of creating a universe that they want, they're making the game, and then people are like, well, I don't like that Hathor. I got jumped in Hathor, and they're like, okay, well now we have to prioritize instancing so that those people are happy. And then similar to what a lot of people felt was going on with the with master modes, where the PvP people weren't happy with master modes, and the real reason why master modes is going away is because the PvP people weren't happy with it. Like there's concerns there that they're moving you. Yeah, they're just going with whatever they think is the right direction rather than going with what they should be doing, what they want to do. Like there doesn't feel like there's a plan. It just feels like it's coming together.
The other question this raises as well is server meshing not going as well as they hoped? Is dynamic server meshing not going how they envisioned? Because it's like.
Again, I thought their indication was it was going well because instancing is it is dynamic server meshing. Dynamic server meshing.
It's like version 1.
Benoit says, we can use every element of the mesh with instancing. It's like, okay, but you were building server meshing for a seamless open world from the beginning. That is what we've been signed up for the last, 10, 11 years, whatever it is, right? It's always been a big open world, and dynamic server meshing was the tool that would allow you to have hundreds of people in a certain area, because the dynamic server meshing would spin up new servers to support the mesh, to support more players in areas that are all doing things for whatever reason, right? And now they're talking about instancing and cutting that down. So you've got dynamic server meshing that isn't online yet, and they haven't proven that it hasn't been proven yet. That was supposed to provide these situations where you could have hundreds of people in one area, but now before that's even come to fruition, they're already talking about chopping those players up into 20, 50, whatever size instances that they want to experiment with, right? Potentially. And again, we don't know exactly how they want to use instancing yet, but we haven't even got the full open world server meshing experience yet, and they're already talking about instancing. So part of me thinks that a lot of this could just be because they want to create these AAA, quadruple A experiences in the multiplayer version of their game, but they can't do that without instancing. right? And that's
That's actually
perfectly
my
fine.
question.
Like Siege of Orison, right? And Onyx facilities, those instance with working NPCs and proper tactical behaviors that are consistent for the NPCs and boss encounters that are consistent, all fantastic. And I'm all for that for instancing, because that they definitely need to be instanced. But just
Do
other
y'all
elements of
think
the game that
community- Oh, sorry.
sorry.
Do you think the community as a whole would respond better to this? Since, because like right now NPCs are essentially broken, right? Like sometimes you're on a server and they're on it. You know, they'll peg you in the face with a grenade. You know, from 100 feet away.
Yeah.
And sometimes they just stand there while you go and shoot everybody. I'm assuming instancing is going to correct that. But do you think
Correct.
that
Yeah.
the community will respond so well that they're finally playing a location that where everything works as it should, that will become a norm and they'll just keep rolling out instancing because it makes it work?
That is definitely, it would definitely help with that. I mean, I'm not a dev, but I would say that instancing these things would 100% make them more consistent. Well, 98%, because I don't know for sure, but that, you know, that you would assume that if it's instanced, yes, there's way less bandwidth they got to contend with or whatever, right? It's just going to be more consistent. It's going to be a more consistent event. Not to mention things like they don't have to have Onyx repeatedly spawning the NPCs behind you as you clear the facility, right? You don't have this silly situation where you have NPCs coming out from the rooms behind you to get in position for the next group of players that are coming through, because it's your instance that you're clearing it from A to B. You're right. That would be my assumption anyway. Same with all the different tasks you have to like complete in Onyx, right? All the different battery here and, you know, break this bit of rock. They don't have to respawn all that and have it continuously working in an instance until you've cleared it and left, and then it just resets from back to the beginning. So they, I get why they want to instance all that stuff, but yeah, back to my original point, like, what's the implication here for server meshing then? Is server meshing, are we ever going to see this, the dynamic server meshing come online in the open world before we start closing things off to instancing? Are they even going to instance the open world? I don't know. It's just questions, right? We just have loads of questions.
I think
Bit of a tangent.
I think you make the point a little bit there when you talk about Onyx and we look at how Onyx is formatted. It's not necessarily that they can't have 100 Onyx facilities in Stanton right now due to server meshing, but you would prefer to have just one that's instanced because you can still have all of those possibilities, but they're all shoved into, like, it's still technically dynamic server meshing, right? If you are able to take a bunch of people who go to the same place, put them on separate servers that are still seamless, they're technically still doing the same thing they would be, just in an instanced environment. And I think it's more a gamer psychology move than a game capability move. I do think that if they were doing the dynamic server meshing, given what they've explained, now you might be right, they might be struggling to get it to that point, but dynamic server meshing to me sounds like if you have 200 people show up on a planet, then you could spin up maybe 5 different servers to make sure that the load is okay. Instead of making those servers all congruent and connected, they could just be replicating the same space. Not necessarily because you couldn't still spin up enough servers on that planet to handle those players, but because once those players meet each other, you can't predict what they're going to do. So I don't know if it is a capability thing, but it does feel to me more like the kind of thing you would do because you just need to separate players, not necessarily because you can't have them together. My perspective is like, there should still be able to be 1,000 people at Levski, because server meshing is still working, but the municipal works underneath Levski. You should still instance because you don't want all the people together. You know what I mean?
That's how I see it. Yeah.
And yeah, I think this does bring up a lot of those kinds of questions for people. Like, okay, this is supposed to be a seamless environment, but now we're talking about instancing. And it does seem like a lot of that comes from just player psychology. It's the kind of thing that people have been saying for years too. Hey, CIG, people have made MMOs for such a long time. They all know this is a problem. Why are you trying to do other things to fix it? And when I ask like Paul, you mentioned that instancing has always been something that they've wanted to do for this exact
Yeah.
reason. They just never really talked about it. So, like Morph was saying earlier, I think it's just really how far they take it. But Benoit
Yeah.
was adamant that they still want to have this quote unquote overworld where it's all seamless. And I think we keep dancing around it during this show, like separate some things out, but definitely where we're trading, where we're hauling, where we're mining, where we're like exploring and just arriving at planets. I think most people don't want to be split out so they can't see the other folks. Like that was the dream. One shard. You can see anybody.
Exactly.
Somebody
Yeah.
you know is playing in New Jersey and you can meet them in Port Olisar randomly because you just happen to be there at the same time. And they need to not take that away.
Do y'all think it could be like a slippery? Well, I guess it can be a slippery slope, but like the assumption I have is like instances are going to make the game run better. It's like you show up. What's the first one they're going to do? They're going to redo Siege of Orison, which is one of my personal favorite missions. I love Siege, even though most of the time it run like garbage. I enjoyed it because it's the first time I got to be a dropship pilot, which is my preferred game loop that doesn't exist. And but what if it just works so well, right? Like, oh man, it's running great. Like, okay, let's try instancing here, and then here, and here, and here. Would it
Yes.
matter if it runs well and it's not perceived that you're not in the world with as many people as you would otherwise be in there with?
I think it's all
Yeah,
about
it
the
is a slippery
possibility.
slope.
That's a
It
hybrid
is a
approach.
slippery
Though.
slope potentially, but we really don't know to what to the full extent that they want to use it. But when I hear Benoit talking about that they can create instances from just quantum jumping to locations, then that does get me a little bit concerned. It's like, well, if you start doing that, then you can instance anything at that point.
It's the whole game.
Yeah.
You can instance the whole game. So that is where my concern stems from. Again, like I said this in my sitcom video, and a lot of my video was focused on the instancing part of it, which is why I said they've sort of changed course a little bit with the game this year, because they had three lead guys. They had Benoit, Richard Tyra, and Ian Leyland all gassing up instancing during CitizenCon this year. All three of them were singing its praises, and it felt like to me that they're laying the groundwork and trying to soften the blow of more instancing coming. But I am all for it in certain areas, like I said earlier. Just it is a slippery slope, and if you're instancing me quantum jumping to Hathor and putting me in with 50 people, and then the next 50 people behind me are in their own version of that same Hathor, and so on and so forth, I don't want to see instancing used in that way.
Yeah.
Personally,
No, that's a no from me. And I think a lot of people, like plenty of people, want to see Star Citizen change to become a game that they want to see. My perspective is I've never played an MMO. I'm normally not drawn to MMOs. I don't even like my game. My expected game here would be Squadron 42. That's the kind of game I traditionally play more of than Star Citizen. But I came to Star Citizen because of what they wanted it to be. And even if there are things I don't necessarily like that they're doing, I want them to keep trying to do what they wanted to do, because it's why we came here. I'm the kind of person who loves a closed arena format, Halo all day, super jumps, teabagging, freaking running the score up on the other team because they suck and they have nothing else going for them in the open world other than what's in that arena. I love an instanced battle environment, but that's not what Star Citizen is supposed to be. So I'm definitely swinging the complete other direction in my hopes. I hope that this is something they use pretty sparingly and they let the game breathe how they've kind of let us think it was going to still. Last question for you guys. This is kind of a combination question, I guess. The first part is, do you think that they're going to continue on this whole playability mindset continuing on into 2026? And do you think that players genuinely want to see more playability or want to see more features towards 1.0? Obviously, everybody's different, but your general read.
I'll jump on this first. They would be stupid not to. This is not my perspective. This is not my point of view, because I'm of the kind of person who's like CIG should just push all of their content or all of their features in and then worry about content. But it's clearly their current approach is making them money. You just look at the funding tracker. The funding tracker is insane. I haven't checked it in the last couple of days, but I can almost guarantee you they are at or near the top they've been for this entire year.
Yeah. It's
Like,
crazy, like 50% ahead of last year.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm looking up real quick.
50 freaking percent is nuts. Even when I pulled it up the other day with Luke on the podcast, he was like, "Oh, yeah, no, they're doing really well. Good to know." Like it's surprising for I think everybody.
They're 104 million already. So, and they're not even into November. So, like to give a context, the best year they ever had was 117 million. So they're only what 13 million away from tying their best record, and they haven't had IAE yet.
Yeah, they made 28 million that November.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
It's like $1 million a day for a whole month.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And they did worse last year, but even then they made 20 million last November. Like they made 40 million in between November and December of last year, and they only made 9 million in October. They're already at 8 million, and it's halfway through the month.
Yeah, they're probably going to get like 130, 140 million this year, I think.
Exactly. And the reason why is because of the content. There has been no real change other than the content and focus on stability, and the players have come back. And
capital ships.
I would challenge you on that.
Ships are content.
If you look at the tracking page, one of the things that's different about this year from last year is there's almost a proportionate amount of new players being added this year from last year, and I think we were talking about how interest in Star Citizen in general from its traditional source of information gathering, which is usually YouTube and Twitch, has been down.
Word of mouth.
And Right. And what I found from doing a little bit of research, where you just asking ChatGPT to check to see if there's more advertisements from CIG, is that they have increased their ad spending in the past couple of years. And so I think what the reason why we're seeing an increase of funding, I think, yes, partially is because there's content, but I think what's also a significant driver in that are the new players coming in from direct funding of ads being placed by CIG on social media. They're not coming through the traditional like streamer, YouTuber, organic marketing like they used to. And so that's why they're buying into the game, because they're seeing an advertisement for the content or something cool that looks cool in the ad, and they're coming and they're buying it. So yeah. I'm just saying, like, I'm not sure that they really know that it's playable, like it's more playable than before. I think they just see a cool thing and they play it and they buy it. Or they buy it and they play it, right?
But that's the thing, is that this focus on content means more patches, and more patches means more ads, because usually they spend more ads for each new patch. So like the playability is the thing that seems to, at least according to CIG, they have higher engagement numbers and longer playing. So it's a combination of more people are seeing the game and buying it, and people are playing longer. So I think just from the way that CIG is talking about it, and if you look at the funding numbers we're able to see, CIG would be dumb not to continue this pattern, because it's clear they're making money, and that is their biggest concern right now, is getting enough money to keep the lights on while they're continuing to produce Star Citizen and Squadron. And they would, and again, I don't want them to. I would like them to focus on features and get those out there, but I'm also understand that CIG is a business and they need to make money. So you know,
would you say then that if this is making them more money the way that they're doing this, does this point to the possibility that an actual released game for them would make more money than keeping it in perpetual development?
No. Perpetual development is not something that CIG can do forever. Eventually you reach saturation. Like, they can't just be in alpha forever, despite what people think is going on. Eventually people, because we've seen this, what happens, it's an ebb and flow. If you look at like last year was less than the previous year, because there wasn't as much development and people didn't perceive as much development, so people didn't come and play. And like 2020, 2020 itself increased because of a combination of them doing Invictus, but also because of the lockdowns, and so more people got in. But as it reached a peak, it also you should also see new players started to go down in numbers. Like there is an ebb and flow of funding, and you can't just continually do development, because those peaks and valleys are going to get lower and lower and lower as you continue. Eventually, they're going to have to release the game. They can't do perpetual development.
You can't assume constant demand will always be there.
Yeah. So releasing something like Squadron gives them an income flow while they're also working on Star Citizen. But eventually they're going to have to release Star Citizen, because we all know, I mean, I think it's almost a given that no matter how good or bad Star Citizen is going to be at 1.0, it's the headlines alone of like 700 years in development finally releases, is going to get enough attention that more people will say, I want to come in and see this garbage fire, or people being like, I've been waiting for this. Like, it's going to generate enough buzz that they're going to make a ton of money on release, but probably more money in the first month of release than they've made in any year total, because of that sort of marketing, that sort of hype cycle.
Yeah.
But
I think,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think you're right that CIGs now, they've seen, like, their eyes are lighting up this year, and they're now like incentivized to continue on with content and playability. Literally every metric is telling them that this is a big success. But they have to start reintroducing features at some point, right? They have to get back on the feature horse, and that is going to knock all that playability and content out of it's gonna knock it completely off course of the same sort of year they've had this year. Next year, I think, they keep saying in CitizenCon next year is going to be amazing, right? But that you're going to have to get back on the feature horse here. You're going to have to start implementing features, and when you put in new features, it breaks everything. So we're getting a new system, so we're going to get that next year. My hope is that my prediction, it's not really much of a prediction, but yes, they've seen the light of what this year has done with content and playability, so they're going to try their hardest to hold on to that next year. And I do think that means we're actually going to see them using the tech preview channels a lot more next year compared to this year, like they said they would. I think now next year they're back cooking features, and they're not going to want to affect that content playability gravy train that they've established this year. So hopefully that means they will make more use of and longer use of the tech preview before putting any of those features into the live environment. Would be my take on that.
I think that's a great take. And I think you're right. They're definitely going to continue on this. But my personal concern would be that they read into this year as the success coming purely from a focus on content and playability, when I would say that there would be a market saturation, there would likely be a market saturation of wherever they're pushing these ads. Eventually those ads are going to reach as many eyes as they can on those platforms, and they're going to still run into the same issues that they're running on through the traditional marketing they've been doing organically through places like YouTube. If you look at, and again, I'm going to reference, we talked about this before this started, about Tomato's recent talk with Luke Stevens, which I highly recommend everyone go and check out. I thought it was a great talk. He's a great like mainstream YouTuber who covers a bunch of different gaming, and I think he's a great read on what the general gaming community sees Star Citizen as. I think Star Citizen still has to deal with a perception issue that goes beyond its bugginess and its lack of completeness. I think the ultimate issue with it is the perception of it being a game only for those who are whales, who have to spend lots of money. And they need to overcome that. Overcome that perception is going to be a real challenge to appeal to a wider market. So in order for them to get past that wall and really increase that income even further to get to that general market, they need to start thinking of strategies to make the game feel more welcoming and affordable and for everybody. We all know as players of the game that you can buy every ship in game, but the perception still remains that that you need to have a lot of money to buy Star Citizen. And I think partly that comes down to the fact that you go onto the website, every single event, every single patch, every time you look at the website, they're pushing something that's expensive. They're pushing something that's $100+ in your face. And to us, we've drunk the Kool-Aid. We're used to it. But for the average gamer like Luke Stevens and his viewership, which are in the tens of millions, that's really off-putting for them. So how do you change that perception? While still having funding come in. I mean, that's a big problem they need to tackle. And I don't know what the solution is exactly to that, but I think maybe just shifting the focus away from those big purchases as the thing you see right away could be one way to start doing that. And I think also like start having new
Putting
ships be
Scooter on the
earnable
landing
end
page will
game.
fix it.
Like like how they're. I don't want CIG to do this, okay? But with the battle passes you often see with other games, right? They'll have a new. I don't want them to do battle. Just hear me out here. They often like show you like some of the things you can earn with battle passes, and that's what keeps people playing is to earn that new thing. I don't want them to do that, but I would like to see like instead of new ships only being purchased on the website, because if you click on say the new event right now, you click on it, you go down, you'll see all the new ships, right? You might think if you were coming from a different game, oh, those are ships I can earn in game. Then you look a little closer. No, I got to pay $150 for that. What? Like you would want to see those new ships also be something you can earn through this new event in game. I think that would change perceptions. That would get people more interested and excited. You can still sell them on the website, but I think you should say, all right, you can earn this in game if you do all this cool stuff for this new story. This is going to be your reward at the end. One of these ships, you get the Shiv. It's kind of shitty, but it's awesome. All right, you're going to love it.
Yeah. I agree. Like I have been of the opinion for a while that CIG needs to, at the very least, make every new ship rentable in game the second it comes into the game. But you need to be able to acquire these new ships in game the day in some way the day they come to the game. Just that way it removes that whole like, oh well, I don't have to spend $100. And the thing is that knowing how things have happened in the past, people still spend $100 because people will still be like, oh, I'll just swipe the credit card. And if you give people the option to do that, or if you could still have that, whereas also you can also still have the people earn it in game and be like, well, I want to play for it rather than pay for it. It's like, yeah, there we go. Like, and that will go a long ways to changing that perception. But that is a long-term 1.0 that they need to do by 1.0 in order to ensure that they continue this healthy game going forward. So.
Yeah, the sooner the better for that.
Yeah, agreed.
All right.
Yes, the playability, yes, definitely important. I do feel like CIG in the past, let's say 2 years ago, there felt like more of like a shotgun tactic. They were kind of just throwing like a lot at the wall, seeing like what was working, what sticks. I feel like their focus, it's just the way I feel like their focus for development and having things focused on playability, but they're also focused on, they are focused on features in the background. I mean, they've mentioned that several times. You can see, in the monthly reports, what they're working on. It's not as much, but it definitely feels like they're more focused now and kind of have like, okay, this is what we're doing. It's much more strategic than it was in the past.
Yeah, I agree.
I think so. Yeah, I think it could be from the management changes they've been making. It could be from cultural shifts at the company. It could just be from the fact that they got past server meshing and they're able to recalibrate a little bit. But they've definitely come off more competent in what they want to do. Maybe what they want to do isn't always what people like, but aside from the sort of the way that Paul was describing earlier, they kind of react to the way that the community is talking and make changes, which is funny because for a long time that was what people were like, man, they just never listen to anyone. Now it can almost be described in some situations as knee jerk, or like they need the community to tell them, like the whole thing with Wicklow being RNG and then them changing that because the community said something. I'm like, guys, you're the ones who said this was a test for crafting. So like, they definitely make some weird decisions, but I would agree that they feel more driven in the same direction as a company. And their communication also, I think, reflects that. They've basically shut down anybody else's ability to say things outside the company except for like Ian Leyland, Rich Tyrer, Benoit, and Ali Brown. Oh, and Moist Master, of course. But like the communication isn't from such a smaller amount of people. It's all indicative of like a company that's a little more focused on trying to be better at that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much for joining me for this talk. Any last thoughts or points that you wanted to get out about the direction of Star Citizen, how you feeling about it, what you're thinking of next year before we wrap things up?
I am hopeful. I am optimistic. I think it's going to be a
Yes.
good year next year. I just would really like for features to come out. I think
It's going to be the year, right? The year of Star Citizen.
Man,
Of course, dude.
man, it's 4.4, y'all. You hear it here. You hear it here. Morphologis says it's going to be the Jesus patch. 4.4 is the Jesus patch.
This is the one.
Yeah,
Gotta be
No,
the
I-
one.
There's still no other game I'd rather play.
Yeah, I really hope that more features come out, but I think as long as they keep up and making the game more playable and more fun and less buggy, then I think most people will enjoy it. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I want more features to come out, but I feel I feel better about the game going into 26 than I was going into 25.
Yes, same.
Yeah,
All
me
right,
too.
then.
I also feel optimistic about. I mean, I came into this year expecting them not to be able to get much done with their focus on Squadron 42. It's been that way now for years. So, my hope is that with Squadron 42, hopefully being done soon, like I want to see an announcement, before the end of this year about what they're going to do with it. I want to know for sure it's coming out next year. If it does, I'll be like over the moon happy. Because I'm excited for Squadron, but I'm also like, yeah, finally they're gonna get back to Star Citizen.
Getting out of the way.
Right? Yeah, exactly. But
Yeah.
I think that the content direction is at least gonna sate, or at least my desire for more things to do in the game for a while.
It's going to wet our beaks.
Mhm.
All right, y'all. Well, thank you so much again for joining me, everybody. You guys know who you're listening to. We got Morphologis, Wicked Wookie, Astro Historian, and DTOX all have their links down below in the show notes if you guys would like to check out their own content, streams, videos, random Twitter or Spectrum posts that you can clip and post into other Discords and create drama and say they said things they didn't. It's great. It's good times, guys. Thank you, everybody, for listening and or watching if you did. Obviously, this is on YouTube, but if you'd like to catch Citizen Central Podcast, it is also available on audio platforms like Spotify and Apple, alongside the launch sequence, which is actually weekly. This one's a little more sporadic, so you'll find it when big things are happening. But I appreciate you all if you decided to come and listen. Thank you guys again so much for joining me for this talk, giving up some time in your day to theorize and speculate about the future of Star Citizen. I hope to have talks with all of you about it again in the future sometime soon. Thanks again, and I'll see everybody next week. Or, well,
Thanks.
Thank you
next
very much.
next time.
episode.
Next time.
Yeah, the next time. All right, y'all.